Hey everybody, welcome back to the Modern Trumpeter Podcast. One unique aspect of our podcast is that some of our interviewees are not household names. They are everyday working musicians who you may not know, but are certainly making a living doing music and are very accomplished players. Today's guest is no different. Lorenzo Trujillo began his musical life at the age of 4 on the violin. By the time he was only 6, he could be seen performing throughout Colorado and New Mexico. It wasn't until high school that he started seriously playing the trumpet, and since then he has studied, performed, and recorded in a wide variety of classical, jazz, and popular styles. Trujillo has performed multiple new works for the trumpet and has regularly been seen giving master classes across the country. His performances have taken him through over 480 cities throughout the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. Lorenzo's professional experience also includes tours with the Dallas Brass, lead trumpet with Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, and 2 seasons as principal trumpet of the Lyric Opera in Los Angeles. Among the world-famous artists with whom Trujillo has appeared with are Lady Gaga, Tony Bennett, Aretha Franklin, Michael McDonald, Harry Connick, Poncho Sanchez, Chris Fuller, Jimmy Heath, James Moody, John Faddis, and many, many more. After 4 years of teaching at the university level, Lorenzo has chosen a new career and now serves in the United States Army Pershing's Own. And if you are new to the podcast, in addition to episodes every other week, we are currently writing a book called The Modern Trumpeter, a guide to building a versatile and successful career. This book gives you the tools, mindset, insider knowledge to turn your talent into a sustainable career. Insights, stories behind the scenes of the music industry are provided by the likes of Wayne Bergeron, Bobby Shue, Michael Sachs, Bria Skomberg, Marcus Printup, Glenn Marhevka, Dave Richards, Jay Webb, Jerry Hay, Brian McDonald, Randy Brecker, and many, many more. Be sure to follow us on social media for additional updates on when the book will be released later this year in 2026. We are on Instagram, YouTube, and our website is moderntrumpeter.com. And now, here is my interview with Lorenzo Trujillo. So tell me a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, how you started playing trumpet, and at what point did you decide that you wanted to make this your life and your career?
So it's kind of an interesting story because I didn't play trumpet as a kid. I was born in California in San Francisco, and then I grew up in Denver, Colorado. And my family, they're all musicians. I grew up playing in mariachis and Southwest, like Spanish colonial style music, like folk music. And my grandma would teach dance, and we would all play the music for it, and she would teach the dances. And so that's kind of what I grew up around. But I grew up playing violin. I started playing violin when I was 4. And my dad actually trained me as a classical violinist and had dreams of me going on to be a world famous classical violin soloist. And I got really, really good at a young age. I was, touring around the country when I was 7 or 8 years old. When Linda Ronstadt released the mariachi album, you should check it out because she's known as like a pop artist, but she did a mariachi album and it's awesome. It is a really good mariachi album. But anyway, cool. She was touring the mariachi album and touring that music, and I opened for her when I was 7 years old at the New Mexico State Fair in front of like 12,000 people. Like I was successful young doing that, and I was recruited by Mariachi Vargas when I was 17 years old to be a violinist, and it was right around that time that I just started playing trumpet. So I was super motivated and super pumped about the trumpet, and I didn't want to play violin anymore. So I said no. But so I started playing trumpet my junior year of high school, kind of like the second half of my junior year. I always teased that was my rebellion against my dad. You know, some kids get into drugs and gangs and all kinds of crazy stuff. And my rebellion was like, I'll show you. You want me to be a classical violinist, and I'm going to be a lead trumpet player. So that was my rebellion. But again, I got successful pretty quickly with the trumpet. I went on tour with a Latin band right out of high school. I was 18 years old. Actually, it was a swing band first. I went on tour with a swing band for a while, and then I came back to Denver and tried to go to college and dropped out to go on tour with another band, and didn't take a while before I kind of got into school. I did an undergrad at the University of Louisville, and I had only planned to do the undergrad. I didn't really enjoy school. But then I had some offers for full rides to go do a master's degree. So I ended up back in California, and I did a master's at CalArts, the California Institute of the Arts. And just happenstance, I was in LA. I was working like crazy. I played 5 nights a week with 3 different salsa bands on top of school. Probably the strongest my chops ever were. Orchestra and band and brass quintet and big band and everything else. And then playing, 3-4 hour salsa gigs every night almost. Plus whatever recording gigs and other big band gigs and live gigs I could get. So it was a fun time.
Yeah.
And then I was in LA. I was working. I wanted to stay, and I got an offer to do a doctorate. So I did my doctorate at UCLA. And then I left. I went to Missouri because I had a college teaching job there that was part-time. And the rest of the time I spent touring. I spent 6.5 years on the road with the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. I was the last trumpet player that they carried before they stopped carrying lead trumpet and just hired wherever they went.
Wow.
But I got to play with horn players from Casey and the Sunshine Band and Earth, Wind, and Fire. And along the way, I spent about 12 years on the road. Played with everybody from Aretha Franklin and Natalie Cole and who else? I mean, there's a long list of people I've played with. So had a lot of success with it. I was on tour with Dallas Brass when I took an audition for the U.S. Army Band. We had a 2-day break in upstate New York, and I flew down to Washington, D.C. to take the audition. When I made the final round, I had to decide either to catch my flight to go back upstate and play a show that night with Dallas Brass, or to play the final round and miss my flight. So I stayed and played the final round, missed my flight, and then caught a different flight to a nearby city, rented a car, and drove faster than I care to admit, especially if you're recording this, to get to the concert. They held the concert for me. It started about 30 minutes late.
Wow.
I literally ran in the hall, walked on stage, and the first thing I played was The Incredibles with Dallas Brass after winning the Army Band audition. So it was quite a whirlwind. It makes for a fun story. So now I make my living in the Army Band. My official position is I'm the assistant principal trumpet in the concert band, which is also the commercial pop trumpet player. So, we do a lot of pop music and commercial stuff there. And so I'm the high note guy, essentially, for the concert band. And then I sub with the U.S. Army Blues, the jazz band, and the U.S. Army Band Downrange, which is their rock band. And then I still do civilian gigs. I do recordings and performances mostly with salsa bands. That seems to be my bread and butter still. It's something I kind of specialize in. I play with about 4 different bands in DC, one of them regularly all the time. We have a regular Saturday night gig where we're the house band, and then a lot of other pickup gigs on top of that. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
Just that, huh?
Yeah, just that.
That's so cool. I just finished just last week playing. We have a brand new theater that opened up here in Utah, and in the inaugural season they did Jersey Boys play. Yeah. So I just finished up playing all that music. So that's super cool.
Yeah, that's fun. Honestly, other than salsa bands probably being my favorite thing to play, my second favorite, which is a close second, is pit orchestra. I love doing shows.
Yeah.
I played a lot of shows at the National Theater when I first moved out here. I've subbed at the Kennedy Center, other smaller pickup houses around the area. But I've played a ton of shows, and it's just so rewarding. I love it.
It's super fun. Yeah, I love doing I'm doing a whole Broadway chapter, and I've interviewed a bunch of people doing there. I also talked with Josh Kaufman, Kevin Burns, Brian McDonald, and all those guys. Craig Taylor too, if you know him.
Craig.
Cool. So,
you should definitely talk to Liesel. If you don't know Liesel up in New York, she's like one of the best lead trumpet players out there, and she's making her living in New York. She retired from the Army as a lead trumpet player. She played in the Army Blues and then the Jazz Ambassadors with the field band, both as lead trumpet player. She's awesome. She's
What's her last name?
I think it's Liesel Whitaker. I'll text you it or something. Let me see.
Yeah, that'd be great. As many people as I can.
Liesel Whitaker. And you can tell her I sent you there. We're not super close, but she knows who I am. And our time at the Army Band kind of crossed paths. Like right as I was coming in, she was going over to the Jazz Ambassadors, and so we know of each other, and we've met half a dozen times. But she'd be a good one.
Awesome, that's great. So now I have so many questions. I have a lot of questions.
I feel bad. I'm not used to doing interviews. So like my next thought is like, so what about you? Like, what's your story? Like, tell me.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit more at the end. Okay, let's start with the main question I had. So with salsa music, you say jazz, and there's so many different genres of jazz. Is it kind of the same for salsa, where it's overhead salsa, and then there's a lot of different styles within that? Would you say?
Yeah, so Latin music has a ton of different styles. A lot of them are characteristics of certain regions, but I mean, we generically kind of call everything salsa music. Like bachata is really big, and cumbia is really big, and reggaeton, and all these different styles of music. There, it's all part of it. Merengue is a huge one, which is one of the hardest ones to play. It's
Mm-hmm.
incredibly rhythmic. It's super fast, and it's all high C or above. It's just like they don't care. It's like they write it at the piano or something. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's that one's it's very articulate and hard to play, but it's really fun. Probably one of the easiest dances to do. uh you just basically walk in place. But yeah, as far as salsa music is concerned, there's a lot of different styles, but it's one of the more demanding on a trumpet player to be able to play salsa music.
Yeah.
The charts are inconsistently written, so you have to be a really good reader. Pretty much 95% of all of the charts are written in cut time, so everything is reading and cut time, fast hard rhythms, and there's a ton of high notes. It's a part of it. So getting comfortable navigating those styles in that register, it's not just about, I mean, I'm sure you heard this from Josh. I know he's a big advocate of this. It has nothing to do with just playing the high notes. It's all about style. So
Yeah.
you have to be able to navigate that register of the instrument on top of really owning the style. So it's a fun challenge, and I love it. It's just one
Yeah.
of my favorite styles of music.
Okay. And what would you recommend for somebody who's trying to get into playing like that type of music? Who are some people to listen to, or some stylistic things to know, I guess?
So any of the kind of the big names in salsa music, some that are still active and some that are not, like Celia Cruz is a big one, obviously, to listen to. Hector Lavoe. And then there's more modern artists like Mark Anthony. There's the Gran Combo de Puerto Rico. Grupo Nietzsche is another one. There's so many names. I mean, I should just open up my playlist and listen through that. But there's I mean, if somebody wants to get into that style of music, I think one, I mean, it seems kind of ridiculous because not everybody likes dancing, but learning to dance the music will really help. Like one of the things that's different about me on a bandstand than a lot of other trumpet players is if you put me on the bandstand, that entire horn section is going to be dancing. And it's not because I'm like, hey guys, these are our kicks, these are our moves, this is what we're going to do. It's because I love the music and it's infectious and I'm going to be moving the entire time. And it's impossible to stand next to me and play saxophone or trombone or another trumpet part and not move. Like I don't know, I exude that kind of energy. And so like the house band that we play with on Saturday nights, it's
Uh-huh.
Hermanos Galvan y su orquesta. They awesome band, huge energy, just so much fun. We all play together all the time, so we literally have dance moves that we have, and we don't choreograph them to certain songs. We just like, hey, somebody will point at somebody else and they pick what we're doing next, and like we can actually dance. But like getting the rhythm, because that's probably one of the hardest parts of the style is the rhythm. It's so hard because you have to stay right on top of the beat. You can't rush, you can't drag, but
Mm.
it's different than jazz. Like when I'm
Yeah.
playing in a big band, if I approach the music like I do in salsa, I'm going to be ahead of the beat.
Yeah.
Um, but if I lay back too much, then I'm behind the bass and it doesn't sound right. Being able to navigate that and shift gears like that and be able to hear how the style fits rhythmically is one of the biggest challenges. And then articulation is another hard one in salsa music. So,
Mm.
for someone wanting to learn the style, like offbeat tonguing is very common in jazz, and that works in some passages on salsa music, but in a lot of others it doesn't.
Mm.
So you have to articulate a lot more and you have to tongue very hard for it to
Interesting.
stylistically sound correct. So just getting comfortable with being able to adapt what skills you have and kind of shift them around to what the style asks for makes a big difference.
Okay. Cool. Because I'm like a novice to all of this, and there's a couple salsa bands here in Utah where they have whoever's here, and there's not too many pro trumpet players here. I'm one of them, and I've played with them a couple times. It was like, okay, like what do I need to do to learn this, and give the music justice as much as I can. And so all of that is helpful. If you could send me that playlist, actually, that'd be great for me to
Well, I mean, my playlist is months long, but I'll definitely tell you what, I'm gonna take notes while I do this because I don't want to forget. I'll send you some good stuff to listen to.
Okay. I know of, Eddie Palmieri,
And he blurs the lines between salsa and jazz.
Okay.
The Latin jazz is a whole other genre. Again, that it's like blurring the lines. Like Arturo Sandoval and Paquito de Rivera were really big with Irakere, when that band that they had in Cuba, where they started to blur the lines, bringing jazz into Latin music. And it's true, like salsa music has a lot more African influence, a Caribbean influence. Like it's a really interesting, I mean, you could do an entire book on just one style of music within the genre of salsa. I mean, it's just
Right, yeah.
but depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go.
And that's the hard thing is like, man, there's so much out there. I'm hoping to just, scratch the surface of everything, like the most common types of music that you could play, at least in the United States. Maybe there might be a different book for each continent or something, but I'm going to scratch the surface, and then here's additional resources and materials you can find that go more into depth. Do you know trumpet player Paul Barron? He's a big touring. So he's written a couple books on Broadway shows and like excerpts from those shows, and here's what you need to know and whatnot. So like that's a great resource to go to. Like what I'll provide is like, hey, here's what life typically looks like, and here's what you can do as a touring trumpeter. But if you're preparing for some shows and need some more help and get in depth, go to this book and etc. So that's kind of the goal of my resources, tying in all these other resources so that anybody can just pick up the book, read something. Oh, I want to go more into that, and then they can find what they need to.
Yeah, Paul is a hell of a trumpet player. We first crossed paths when I lived in Missouri. In the Heights musical came through, and the lead trumpet player in Missouri had a medical emergency last minute, so I went in and subbed and played at the Opera House until they wanted Paul to come out and play, but I played the first couple of nights until Paul got there. I was brand new in town; they didn't know me, so it was fine. Like I didn't take it personally. Plus, it was Paul, and so I actually sat in the pit and got to listen to him play the show after I had done it. And it was just like, he's just a king of efficiency and pacing. And he's a great trumpet player.
Yeah, definitely. And you have to be for a lot of those shows, especially. So, and the same for salsa music too, I'm sure. Especially how long are salsa gigs for you usually?
Usually it's like 3 hours with a set break in the middle. Sometimes private parties can go longer. If I'm playing with like a headliner act, because that's one thing I've been doing a lot lately, is there's a couple of clubs in town who bring in big artists from Peru or Puerto Rico or wherever, and so I won't play with the opening band. I'll just play with the headliner. So then it's like a 65, 70-minute set, just one set and you're done. So those gigs are cool because you don't really have to pace yourself. Like you can hit it pretty hard and you're safe. Occasionally I've done gigs with headliners where I also play with the opening band and then the headliner. Those are a little painful.
Yeah, that'd be rough.
And also, especially in the summer season when there's a lot of Latin festivals, is I'll double or even triple up on gigs. So I may have, a gig with one salsa band at 2:00 at some festival, and then I'm playing with a different salsa band at 5:00 at a different festival, and then I'm with my normal Saturday night band that night. Or the other one that hurts really bad is, being in the Army band. That's my first priority for work.
Right.
So the most salsa gigs don't start until very late. So a lot of times I'll go straight from playing an Army band concert, change my clothes and go straight to the club and go play a salsa gig. And going from like legit playing for a whole concert to a salsa club afterwards and having to hammer lead playing, that shift can be a little painful too. So it's all about pacing and just understanding how loud you play. But that being said, I'm a little bit different than a lot of the trumpet players. Like Josh is a very efficient player. Brian is an incredibly efficient player. Kevin Burns, I have a funny story about Kevin. He was the first trumpet player ever in my life. I had been playing trumpet for maybe 2 weeks. And it was when he was in the academy band in Colorado and he came to my high school. He sat down with me and showed me how to practice. Like he showed me stamp exercises and some Clark stuff. And Like the first time anybody had ever showed me like, hey, this is how you should practice the trumpet, that was Kevin Burns. And
Wow.
then fast forward to like maybe 10 years ago, I went on tour with the Airmen a Note. And I was standing next to Kevin, and we were talking about this, and he goes, man, you're making me feel old. And it's just like, no, I've come full circle. I made it. I'm here. So that was super cool for me to feel like I had made it. But yeah, the chops thing and pacing is a challenge. But what I was saying is I'm a little bit different trumpet player. I don't focus on efficiency. I don't know if you've been on my Instagram, but I have the nickname El Toro. Like I play trumpet like a bull. Sometimes a bull in a china shop, but still like a bull. Like I move a lot of air. I play on a very large trumpet. The backbore on my lead mouthpiece is frankly bigger than most people play on their orchestral mouthpieces. Like I move a ton of air and I play like that. And a lot of guys disagree with that, and that's fine. Whatever works for them works for them.
Right.
And Josh and I have had healthy debates about equipment and stuff. We work together. We know each other. We're friends. And, it has bit me in the butt, and I've had chop problems at different times, but it really works for me. The more relaxed I can stay and the more air I can move, the more success I have. So when I'm thinking about pacing, I'm not thinking about saving my chops. I'm thinking about being hyper aware of when tension is starting to enter my body and getting super relaxed. That's my pacing, is not letting my body get so fatigued that I start tensing up.
Interesting.
That's how I pace myself.
Okay. That's a totally different approach. But like, if it works, that's great. Why not? Cool. Yeah. What are I guess like, so we have like jazz standards and the rap, and there's so what are some of like the salsa standards that you would say, like tunes and
oh man, there's so many. Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, there's it depends on how long of a list you want to say, top 10 or top 100 or whatever. It'd be easy to fill out. But there's certain tunes like Raras or Mi Vida es un Carnival. Celia Cruz made that one really popular. There's a whole bunch of tunes that Hector Lavoe made popular that now Mark Anthony has made popular again. And I'll send you a list. I'll just send you like top 20 or something. I won't make crazy.
Yeah, that'd be great. I do a lot of wedding bands and cover bands. So like every gig, you're going to play Uptown Funk, you're going to play September, you're going to play, that's what I'm kind of like looking for. Like, what are the
Sweet
ones,
Caroline?
the ones where you kind of like roll your eyes, like, here we go again.
Yeah.
Like the ones that you're probably most likely going to play on a salsa gig are going to be these ones. That's kind of the list I'm looking for. And then if there's more, great, what are some additional ones?
Well, that's the cool thing about the bands out here. Like Hermanos Galvan, that I play with the most, we do all covers, maybe some arrangements of covers, but we do a lot of covers. So playing every Saturday night, we do a lot of rep. I mean, there's probably close to 1,000 tunes in their book. So I know that in the heat of the moment, if we're just trying to extend for time or something, and the band leader is just going to call a tune, I can pretty much guarantee it's going to be La Murga or Idilio or one of these tunes that like La Brujeria, for example, or something that like nobody needs to practice. We don't need to think about it. If I get to pull up the music, I can play the opening until I find the music, that kind of thing. But then there's other bands like I play with Paulo Perez, and all of his music is original. He doesn't do any covers at all.
No.
So that's fun too. But the style's all the same. So it all transfers over.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. Well, that's super helpful, because I kind of started emphasizing like I'm going to write a book or an ebook on pop commercial like wedding band stuff, like, and I had like a couple people reach out to me like, hey, what are some songs, or where can I get some music? And it's like, I'm like, well, these are the songs, and trying to find some music or something. But like, it's like, yes, I want to get into that. Where do I start? And it's like, here are the tunes. You listen to these, like, start to understand, get the style, transcribe it if you need to, or you can search music, find music, and then you're prepared for when you get that gig or get that call. For me, there was, as far as the party band stuff is like when I was in high school, I was in a couple of groups that was similar to that type of music and that style. So we played Treasure by Bruno Mars, and some of those tunes, Science Seal Delivered and whatnot. And so I already had experience. So then when I got my first call to go playing a party band. I looked at the list and it was like Treasure, Signed, Sealed, Delivered. I was like, no way, I've already played this. I'm ready, I'm prepared. And so trying to give as many resources to young players like that, where, they might not have a gig yet, but they can start preparing so that when the gig comes, they already know half the tunes or are comfortable enough to where they don't have to completely start over,
Mhm.
so that's what I'm looking for as far as like salsa music, and I'm not sure how much mariachi. Do you do a lot of mariachi playing as well?
I don't anymore. I when I go home to Colorado, I'll play mariachi with my family. I taught at a mariachi festival in Denver for a number of years, but I haven't done that in 3 years maybe.
Okay.
It's just not something I keep up with. Again, it's a whole style into itself that I
Yeah.
know the style and I can pick up and sit in and sound like I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I know the music. I mean, I grew up with it, but it's just not something that is not prevalent enough in my life to put any kind of effort into it.
Right.
The last time I really did anything mariachi wise was during COVID. I put out a video on YouTube that I collaborated with my dad, and we did Las Mañanitas. I played both trumpet parts. I played all three violin parts. My dad played one violin part. I played the vihuela, and we had a friend who used to work for the Smithsonian Center, and he played the guitarrón and the harp. And then my dad and I both sang. Like it was just like this cool little production. You know how everybody's doing those a cappella videos. And that was honestly the last time I put any real time into it. But I play all of the mariachi instruments, all of the guitar and the rhythm instruments. But yeah, it's not something I do anymore. Honestly, like now, probably the biggest challenge I have is navigating crossing over. I've always been successful in my career because I've been a crossover player. All of my degrees are classical performance. I mean, I've won and advanced in some big auditions for classical trumpet, like as a classical trumpet player.
Yeah.
But always have been a lead player on the side too. I can improvise, but I don't consider myself a jazz player. But I can improvise well enough to not sound stupid. But the biggest challenge I have right now is playing that chair that I have in the Army band, because it's assistant principal trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
So the bulk of my job is essentially like an orchestral style band trumpet player. But then I have to just immediately shift gears and play a pop tune,
Yeah.
or stand up in the middle of the band and improvise over a swing tune or a Latin tune or something.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking like, the quintessential things that people know, like Mambo from West Side Story. Like it's a written solo that's, anybody can play that. Our principal trumpet could play 90% of the stuff that ever comes across the plate. And the 10% he chooses not to play is not because he can't, it's because he doesn't want to. But we all specialize in what we specialize in, so he lets me play the things that are more in my wheelhouse because it just
Right.
has that sound. He's more focused on maintaining an orchestral sound, whereas I'm more focused on being able to light it up and dial it in and
Yeah.
project over the band. It's actually funny, if you look at the setup in the band, there's a huge giant gaping hole in front of me. Like all of the woodwinds have like parted the sea, so there's nobody sitting in front of me. They all refuse to sit in front of me, and it's like I don't blame them. But if I'm going to play the style, I'm going to play it right. And again,
Yeah.
I play like a bull, and if you're in front of me, you might as well be carrying a red cape with you, because I'm I'm going to blow through it. But yeah, that's funny to see that in the band.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And which army band is it that you're in?
I'm in Pershing Zone, the U.S.
Pershing.
Army band. Yeah, the premier band.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's I think I spent 2 days researching every single military band, all the branches and where they are in the world. And man, because there's not one place where that's all listed. So I was like,
Yeah. Well, if you just focused on the premier bands, there's very few. I mean, when I say there's bands, there's like within Pershing Zone, there's 7 performing elements, but we still call it one
right,
band. But
right,
like there's West Point, there's Pershing Zone, and there's the field band. Those are the Army bands. Those are all part of the Army premier bands. And then there's regional bands too, which are all
yeah.
the field bands out in the area. But the regional bands are a completely different job entirely.
Hmm. And that's what I've heard from people who are in both that I've interviewed. It's like it's a different thing. Like it still pays and it's good, but yeah, totally different than in the premier group. So, and how long have you been in Pershing Zone for?
I hit 13 years next month.
Okay, wow, so
Doing
good, a
about-
good amount of time.
Yeah.
Cool. And are you planning on doing the full 20 or 30 or
Oh,
how long?
I'm not gonna do 30. You can quote me on that. I'll definitely do the 20 because at this point I'm well past the halfway point.
Right.
It's should be downhill from here. A lot of things have changed in the Army band. It's a very different environment now than it used to be.
Interesting.
But we still have absolute world-class musicians, and it's incredible to play with them. So,
Yeah.
I plan to do the 20, barring, something crazy like a job offer comes in that I just can't refuse, or,
Right.
God forbid something medically happens that I have to get medically boarded out of the Army or something. But yeah, I plan to do 20.
Okay, cool. And what was, so you went, you got a doctorate, you were teaching. What was just the reasoning for you to accept a military job and a Pershing Zone job?
Honestly, it was very, very simple. I had a daughter and I needed health insurance. And so I started looking I was negotiating with my university about, they did make me full time in the last year, but there was very little benefits and things because they didn't really have the budget to make me full time, even though they did. And so I was looking for other jobs. I was also touring with Dallas Brass during that year and still touring with Frankie Valli on the off time. So I was incredibly busy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I've been touring for 12 years. I need to settle down. Like I've lived in like 5 states. I mean, there was a point, honestly, when I lived in Missouri where I didn't even have an address. I didn't have a home. I had a PO box and I was on the road. And if I wasn't on the road, the longest break I would have, I would just stay with a friend. Or go home and visit my family because it was like there was no reason to pay for an apartment. I'm never there. I had a couple of friends from college that had positions in the Army band, and they kept telling me, look, it's a stable job. It's a good job. It's good benefits. It has enough flexibility and the time commitment that you can afford to do civilian jobs and do other things that you want to do. So I decided to come out and take the audition. It wasn't really that I sought out being a military musician. It was just the right timing, and there was an opening, and it was my day. I had a good day. I played well, and I actually knew I was going to win when I walked into the final round because you don't get the round list until right before you're going to play. The first 2 rounds were all legit playing and orchestral excerpts and etude, Charlie etude, stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I got the list for the final round, the first 3 excerpts were all commercial. And I was like, this is my bag. I'm going to win this job.
Yeah.
So I went in there with a very different attitude, like just ready to blow the walls down. And I did.
Yeah.
And actually, after I got to the band, after boot camp, 30 days after getting there, I auditioned for the commercial spot in the concert band because I originally auditioned in the ceremonial band. And that's where I spent my first year. But 30 days after getting there, I auditioned and won the commercial spot in the concert band, which is where I've been for the last 12 years.
Okay.
So that was a completely different audition and very challenging. But again, at that point I had a job. So my attitude was just like, hey, if I don't win this job, I'm still going to be working. It's not going to change anything. So
yeah, which is nice. Cool. So that's interesting. Did you ever think like it was I don't want to say like a waste of time to get a doctorate degree, but do you ever feel like it kind of was like well, why did I do that if I ended up doing this?
So my dad would absolutely just turn off the microphone right now again if you heard me saying this, because I got interviewed one time for an article in Denver in the Denver Post, and the only quote they used was what I'm about to say to you. And my doctorate is a DMA, and I've always said that stands for doesn't mean anything. So I think probably because I was a touring musician, because I've recorded so much, because I've worked so much in live bands, I truly believe that the best education is cutting your teeth on the bandstand. And while there is valuable time spent in the practice room in school, and there's a lot of value that can be taken from certain teachers and mentors and some classes, not all of them.
Yeah.
I feel like if you want to be a performer, you don't need a degree other than it's your ticket to open a door.
Right. Yeah.
I never planned to get a master's degree. I mean, I actually dropped out of my undergrad twice before I ended up at the University of Louisville and finished my degree there. And I dropped out both times because I got asked to go on tour. And I was like, sure, I'd rather do that. And I dropped out of school and went on tour. Came back the next year, tried it again, dropped out of school and went on tour again. I love the road life. I love doing that. But so I wouldn't say it was a waste of time. It afforded me a lot of opportunity for time spent honing my craft outside of the building, outside of the school. Yeah. But yeah, I think for anybody who wants to be a performer, you don't need the degree other than to open doors. Because like if you want to audition for the Army Band and you submit a resume and you have no degrees, they're probably not going to invite you. But you can still show up to the audition and take the audition. And the audition's all behind a screen. So we won't know who you are. And if you're the best player, you're going to win.
Yeah.
So it really, I think the best players generally have a good balance of education and experience, heavier on the experience side, but the experience goes much further, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's tricky. Like that's kind of been my, like, it's like, college, like with, we have to take the general classes, what are you doing? And even some of the music classes, that's like, well, unless you're going to go into that, like this is kind of a waste of time. Like, and, hopefully some of my professors don't hear this interview, but I feel like there are some classes like music history and some of the theory classes that I was like, man, this is just, why are we here? Like.
Well, honestly, it's like you said, you're playing wedding bands. Wedding bands is the bane of my existence. I do it. I hate it. I can't stand wedding bands. It's like, it's the only time I take a wedding band gig is if I have absolutely nothing going on. My wife's busy and isn't going to be home, and like they pay me way too much money. Then I'm like, okay, fine, I'll come play with your wedding band. But like, I feel like school prepares you for doing the things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
If you can learn that bigger focus on, okay, what I would suggest for anybody who wants to go to college for music is pick a teacher that you truly want to emulate in some way, whether it be how they play or how they organize their business or how they market themselves, whatever it is that you want to emulate. Pick a mentor that you truly can like latch onto and learn from, because that mentor is going to have more influence on everything else after you leave. And all the other stuff that you have to do in school, you just have to do it. You have to learn the material and check the box and move on. And it's just preparing you for when you have to take that wedding band gig because there's nothing else going on. And you're like, well, I got to do what I got to do. Yeah. And you still have to show up. You have to be professional. You have to be easy to work with, and you have to play your ass off. Like, it doesn't matter if you want to be there or not. Trust me, there's plenty of stuff we play in the Army Band that I don't enjoy playing, but I still have to play it at my best ability and not just phone it in.
Yeah.
Because that's what's expected. That's what people want to hear.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think like that's another big thing that, I want to get across in the book, and quotes like this from all these players who are working so much. It's like, I feel like sometimes there's the young player, and this was myself, we're playing in some wind symphony piece. I'm like, why am I here? It was like, no, you have to, if you're going to take the gig, you have to commit to it and not just phone it in. And I've been guilty of this sometimes of, like, oh, I already know these tunes. I'm not going to brush anything up, or like, oh yeah, or like forget about, oh, this tune. I remember playing Proud Mary one time where I didn't have music. I didn't know, and just, it starts slow and I'm just like chilling. And then it speeds up and I'm like, yeah. And the band leader's like, what do you play? What are you doing? I'm like, huh? Like, what? And so I just totally missed it. Like,
yeah.
And I learned like, okay, yeah, you gotta be on top of that.
Yeah. Honestly, like in my practice time, I spend more time practicing fundamentals than I do anything else. I always have 2 to 3 books of music that I need to learn for the upcoming gigs. And I'll spend maybe an hour on that in a given day. But I spend all my time just really, really just nailing down my fundamentals, because do you know who Vinny DiMartino is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Vinny was one of my mentors, and he was adamant that if you have absolutely rock solid fundamentals, then 85% of everything that's ever on the stand in front of you is never going to be a problem. Then there's like another 10% that's going to be really, really hard. And then there's like 5% that would make Al Vizzuti pee his pants. Like, it just doesn't come up very often. And if it does, they call out. But the truth is, like, if your fundamentals are rock solid, you might not need to brush up on that tune you already know.
Right.
As long as you stay engaged and focused while you're playing it, your fundamentals do the work.
Yeah. That's
Because trust me, I haven't practiced Stars and Stripes in forever.
Yeah.
And I know every single cornet parts. I even know the trumpet parts all by memory. I know the dynamics. I know the articulations. I know all of it from memory because I've played it so many times. I'm never going to practice that ever.
Right. Yeah.
But when I play it, I still try to stay engaged so that it's a quality product.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way to put it.
So total side note, I wrote this down to bring this up at some point when you were talking about all the different facets and genres and everything. Have you reached out to Steve Patrick? Do you know who that is?
No, I don't know who that is.
So Steve Patrick is the most working top call trumpet player in Nashville. He is, what made me think of it is when you said Uptown Funk. He did a cover of Uptown Funk with a horn band that he plays with that is insane. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to send you the link to that YouTube video. There's also one on Shake It Off, the Taylor Swift song. The horn lines, like, oh my God.
Oh, is it? I might have heard of that one. Oh, what's the band name?
Smoking Section?
Yeah.
Tim Akers. Yeah, Tim Akers in the Smoking Section. But Steve Patrick is playing lead in that. But he's a great classical player. He plays piccolo really well. But that guy is working all the time, and he is phenomenal and just a monster on the trumpet. I mean, incredible lead trumpet player with I'm talking like E flats over double C with big sound. Like he plays like a bull, a lot like I do. So I respect him a lot. I spent a week at his house a few years ago, and we just practiced together, and I followed around to gigs and just hung out. He would be a good one to tap into for recording and also for being a freelancer. I mean, he's essentially a freelancer full time.
Yeah, which is hard to do, but
yeah.
But there's some people who can do it. It seems the more people I talk to, everybody's you got to be able to be versatile. You got to be able to do everything. But a lot of those people will then have a specialty in a certain field.
Lou Soloff was the one who taught me that. He said, absolutely be able to do everything, but make sure that you figure out what you do better than everybody else and make that exceptional.
Yeah.
So figure out what separates you from your colleagues and make sure you never let that slide. That always has to be getting better. But then everything else that might not be your best thing, you have to be able to do well enough that if you're on a gig, nobody knows it's a liability.
Yeah, definitely. And I was talking to Wayne when he's I do what I do and I can improvise and I can play lead, whatever. I could play cornet parts and I could fake it really well, but if there's somebody else in the room who's going to play it better, I'm going to have them do it and whatnot. And I'm like, that makes sense. And there's other people that I've talked to who are similar who will, they're in the recording session and they're like, somebody's playing first, but they're like, so-and-so, you're going to sound better on this. I'll split the first money with you or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's essentially what Kelly and I do. Kelly Corbett is our principal trumpet. He's just an amazing musician and a phenomenal trumpet player. And he's so humble. He would argue with me right now if I was saying these things in front of him. He's so great. And sitting next to him, I learned just by listening to him play and watching him play. I learned so much. But there are things that he hands me to play because I sound really good doing those things. And while he won't sound bad, it's a trade-off, I'm not going to play the big interval lyrical pretty solo, not because I can't sound great doing it, but because Kelly's going to sound great +3.
Yeah.
So yeah. If that's available, why would I play it? I'd rather hear him play it,
Yeah, definitely.
I get it.
Yeah, when I was, this was a while ago, this was 2017, I did a summer thing for my church where I was at a historical site and played in a brass band for the summer and whatnot. And I've always been the high note, the lead guy, first trumpet player. And so I'm playing for, we played some jazz, played some marches, whatnot, and I'm playing first most of the time. And then we'd come up with a hymn where there's a nice trumpet solo. And, in rehearsals, I played it the first few times. And then you're like, if other people want to try, go ahead. And somebody else played it, and the director was like, ooh, who played that solo that time? And I was like, oh, so-and-so. Was like, hey, you got it every time. I'm like, well, I'll do the next one. And then, okay, well, let me hear this person do it. And they kind of became the de facto lyrical, beautiful tone soloist. And I was like, no, and being young, I was like, I can do it too, but they sounded better on it. And, nobody could do what I did, but I was like, okay. It took. I don't know if I ever learned that lesson when I was there, but looking back, it's like, that makes sense.
I get it though. Like it's still, you want to play those other solos that are not necessarily your biggest strength. One of the things I do as assistant principal is I have to be ready at any moment to step up and play principal trumpet. So there's been at least twice fairly recently where, Kelly had an emergency or he got sick or something, his kid got sick, something happened where it was like, hey, I know I've rehearsed principal trumpet all week long and played the sound check, but guess what? On the concert tonight, I'm not coming and you're playing principal. And I have to just step up and do it. Occasionally, more times than not, that only happens on rehearsals. He very rarely will miss a concert he's committed to. But it's kind of fun to get that reaction where everybody kind of turns around and was like, wait, Kelly's not here. Who's playing that lyrical solo? It sounds good, but it's not Kelly. It's like, yeah, I can do this too. It's not the same. It's fun.
That makes sense. Is there anything you wish you or anything you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger and starting to play the trumpet?
The one thing that comes to mind, well, there's two things really. The one thing that comes to mind when you say that is something that I'm focused on right now is I'm really diving into learning jazz improvisation more. When I started playing trumpet, I mean, literally the first sound I made on trumpet was a high D. So it was like right away, my bender is like, oh, do that again. Like that's hard for most players. I'm like, is it? I played violin, so I could hear in that register. So I didn't know it was supposed to be high. That's not high on the violin. You can play an octave higher than that. So, but when I started playing trumpet, you could either be a lead player or you could be a jazz player.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that wasn't what was put in my brain to begin with, because I feel like, well, now I'm 30 years behind playing jazz. And like I said, I can make my way around changes. I can play okay. I'm not going to play bebop. I'm not going to play anything profound. I'm going to miss a lot of stuff that I hear in my ears, but now is the time where I want to try to start fixing that. And a lot of it is, like we said, like if I'm subbing in the blues, and I mean, if I've got Chris Burbank or Alec Aldred or Noah Hawker sitting next to me, like I'm not going to play a jazz solo because any one of those guys is an artist by themselves, and I could listen to an whole album of them. Why would I play a solo?
Yeah.
Sure, I could make the changes enough that I wouldn't sound dumb, but they sound incredible and will blow your mind. So yeah. So I'm not in my life now, in the environment I'm in, I still can't be a jazz player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I might play 16 measures in the concert band, but I'm the best jazz player in the concert band, in the trumpet section anyway.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things where I wish it wasn't taught that you could be a lead player or a jazz player. I think you can be both, and you can develop both. Because, like, for example, Chris Burbank in the Army Blues, he's got great high chops. He can play lead. And Graham Breedlove, amazing jazz trumpet player. He just retired from the Army Blues. He was a jazz player, but he was originally hired way back, 29 years ago as the split lead. The guy's got great high chops. He can play lead, but he's a jazz player. So it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Right.
Maybe that speaks kind of to what you were saying about versatility, but definitely. The other thing I was going to say, something I wish I knew then that I now is like, if you're having a bad day and things are not working, don't change equipment. I know guys that are playing on the same trumpet mouthpiece that they've played on for 40 years, and they sound great. And I own probably 300 trumpet mouthpieces. Now, granted, I always come back to the same trumpet mouthpiece that I've now been playing on for 25 years, but all of the wasted time trying to fix my chop issues with changing equipment is a nightmare. So, like, my daughter plays trumpet, and she's like, Dad, I want to try a new mouthpiece. My first question is why?
Yeah.
What are you not hearing, or what are you not getting out of the mouthpiece you have now that you're looking for in a new mouthpiece? Because I think sometimes as trumpet players, we just get bored and just want to change things up to change things up. It's a slippery slope.
I understand. Yeah, I do the same thing.
Literally, like this is on my desk at all times.
Yes, is that a picket set?
No, it's a picket box, but I'm a Warburton artist, so I have almost a complete set of all the Warburton everythings.
Oh wow!
So I have friends call me all the time, like, "Hey, can I try New York backbore? Sure. Like I've got one, and I end up shipping stuff around for guys to try, and then if they like it, they buy one, and then Warburton's happy.
Great.
But no, I've been playing on Terry's stuff since like '97.
Okay.
My first trumpet teacher was he played on a Curry mouthpiece, but one of the mouthpieces that he had in his bag when I was because I was playing on, I learned to play trumpet, if you can believe this, on a Bobby Shoe Marcinkiewicz one. Shoe one. Maybe that was why I could play high notes. But yeah, he was like, yeah, you got to play something else. That doesn't sound good. And so the mouthpiece I picked out of his box was a Warburton. So it's just where I gravitated towards.
There you go. Yeah, I played a Marcinkiewicz shoe too for a long time, and it worked great. And then when I was young, I was like a senior, and I was in a youth honor band, jazz band. We were playing, where were we playing? Dizzy's Club in New York, and Wayne Bergeron was a guest artist, and he came in, and I'm just watching him warm up, just like he's right there, and he like handed me his trumpet. He's like, "Hey, try this mouthpiece out," his GR mouthpiece, and I like immediately found love, and I've pretty much been playing it ever since. I had a couple of years where I went back to the Marcinkiewicz, or then got a different lead piece, but again, I've just gravitated back to that, and then have since got most of his other mouthpieces where same rim and everything, because that's it just works well for me. And then I play, yeah, same thing with horns, bounced around a little bit. I've had a box Strad 37, it was great. Then got a Pickett Blackburn lead pipe installed, and then I got a Bach commercial trumpet. And for the last year or so, I've been playing an old recording from 1966, and that's been working great for me so far. So that's where I'm at, and not playing anytime soon, but
I learned to play trumpet on a Benj 3X MLP. So it was a 464 bore. So it was already a large bore. My first trumpet teacher played on a Flip Oaks Wild Thing, which was a 470 bore, and it has a soprano bugle bell. Like it's a massive bell. You can't even like put a harmony mute in it without double corking it. It's not a big bell flare. It's just the throat opens up really early, and it's like wide open at the bell.
Interesting.
And I've bounced around on every horn you can imagine. I've been a Yamaha artist and then left. I was a Jupiter artist and then left. Like I've done all these things, and I keep gravitating back to the Wild Thing. And I found the original Wild Thing that I owned back in the 90s. I found it. It was sold to a guy on eBay that I sold it to, and then he sold it to some guy in Hawaii, and the guy in Hawaii had it. So I contacted him, and it took months of negotiating with him, and I had to build him another trumpet and trade him trumpets plus cash, and I got my trumpet back. So I have my original Wild Thing that I played on forever. And that's what I'm back on now. I'm about to buy a new trumpet in June. As I'm saying this, there's a guy in Texas that I'm really interested in working with, making a custom trumpet, and I'll have to get back to you and let you know how that turns out. But do you know who Stephen Hawk is from Pittsburgh?
No.
He's a monster trumpet player. He's mostly retired now. He's getting ready to move to Texas to leave Pittsburgh after many years. But he just recently switched to this guy's trumpets, and he's like, dude, I sold all my Bachs and all my Yamahas. This is the best trumpet I've ever played. And that guy does not mince words. Like he will never blow smoke up your butts. Like if he tells you something's good, it's good. I'm like, all right, I'll try it. But no, my Warburton mouthpieces, my classical mouthpiece is a Bach 1 1/4 C.
Okay.
So it's big. It's got a 25 throat with the standard 24 back bore. I play that for literally everything. All my fundamentals, all my music prep, everything. I very rarely practice my lead mouthpiece. My lead mouthpiece over the years has changed a lot. Warburton has made me probably 25 different custom lead mouthpieces that are just for me, that all have my initials and numbers and everything on it. And I think I finally have settled and am super comfortable on my lead mouthpiece now. And Terry, finally, after playing on his mouthpieces for 25 years, has made me a signature artist and is planning to release my signature top. So hope maybe you'll be able to buy it one day. I don't know, but it's cool. If you play on Bergeron's mouthpiece, his inner rim diameter is a 645, which my lead mouthpiece is a 645. So it would have more bite than Wayne's mouthpiece. I've played Wayne's mouthpiece before. I did a whole run with the Dallas Brass on it. It doesn't have enough bite for what I like. I lose flexibility without a little bit of bite, but mine is way more open. It's got the compression in the cup, and then the rest of the mouthpiece is like wide open. But I don't know. We'll see.
And what's the guy in Texas that's making the trumpet? What's
Steve Bell. Steve Bell. It's Bell Trumpets. He's got a whole process that he takes you through where he doesn't just build a trumpet based on what you want. He's got this whole process, and you can read about it online if you look up Bell Trumpets. As opposed to just building a trumpet that you want, he doesn't want your input on what you think you want in the equipment. Apparently, and I don't know this from experience, I know this from talking to Stephen Hawk, but like hope I'll be able to talk about it from experience after June 2nd. So he takes you through this whole process where he watches you warm up, he watches you play, he listens to you play, he figures out how you create compression, how you blow, how you approach the trumpet. And then the first thing you do is he picks the size of the venturi for the lead pipe. So how the front end of the horn blows, then he picks a lead pipe based on how you approach and how you create compression and how you blow. Then he picks a valve block with the bore size based on how much air you move, how much flow do you want in that trumpet. And then the last thing he does is you pick a bell. So you pick the bell weight, the bell material, the bell flare, the mandrel, the size of the bell, phosphor bronze versus silver versus copper versus yellow brass, whatever, or combinations of those things. And he completely builds you a custom trumpet based on how you play the trumpet and what you want it to sound like. And then when it's all done, then the sexy part comes and you get to decide what the finish is. You know, do you want brushed? Do you want shiny? Do you want silver? Do you want gold? Do you want colored buttons? Do you want, a red bell? Like, what, you can do anything. And it's just all completely custom made for you. So I'm excited for that because, like I said, I approach the trumpet very differently. Literally, honestly, I know like 3 people on the planet who approach the trumpet exactly like I do. And one of them is my best friend in life. His name is Reese Land. He's the trumpet professor at the University of Louisville. He wasn't my professor. We were actually in school together, and now he teaches there.
Cool.
He and I, we just did a tour this last month together, and with the faculty brass quintet from the University of Louisville, they brought me back to play with them. And just sitting at his house warming up every morning, he was like, oh my God, it's so refreshing to like play with somebody who like plays like I do. It's like, me too. Like, this is so nice. Because we both just approach this horn with like total relaxation and all the air in the world and just let the equipment do the work. And it was great. So him, my first trumpet teacher who's passed away. And then there's a couple other guys, Greg Wing, who's retired now. He used to teach, but he's a big Bill Adam guy. I don't subscribe specifically to Bill Adam, and anybody who studied with Bill will tell you that Bill Adam does not have a routine. He taught each individual player what they needed, and he just had some exercises that he would use for them. So my approach is it's a little bit of Jimmy Stamp, it's a little bit of Bill Adam, it's a little bit of Michael Sachs, it's a little bit of my first trumpet teacher, Tony Rodriguez. It's a little bit of like Jerry Hay, like that genre of player, monster players. And I wouldn't say that my routine or my approach is unique. I just think that it's a combination of a lot of different approaches that is just what works for me. So like I have a routine that I play every single morning. Like I get up, I have my coffee, I play my routine. Takes 45 to 50 minutes for me to play through the entire routine. I have that completely written out because people ask for it all the time. So I can email that to you if you want me to.
Sure.
And a lot of people look at it and be like, how in the hell do you play this and not get wasted for the day? And it's like, well, it's because I know I don't focus on efficiency, but if I'm relaxed and I can find that blow, like I'm not working hard at all. And so I can be playing, high double G's or something at a triple forte volume in my fundamental practice, and I'm not wasting any chops. I can do crazy flexibility things with zero effort because I'm not wasting any chops. Warming up only takes a couple of minutes. Anything past that is practicing. So I warm up for a couple of minutes, then I do my fundamentals, and then I get ready for my day and go to work. And I do that every single day. It doesn't matter if I've got 3 salsa gigs or nothing. I might tailor it and focus a little bit more. Like I might switch to my lead mouthpiece at one point because I've got a bunch of lead playing that day and I just want to feel that kind of blow is different. My lead mouthpiece actually has a bigger backbore than my classical mouthpiece. So I just have to kind of find that resistance point in the blow. Yeah, I'll email that to you.
I have a lot to go through.
If you ever make it out to the DC area, hit me up.
For sure.
We'll go out. I'll bring you out to a salsa club and you can sit in and have some fun.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to.
Well, cool.
But anyway.
All right, man. Well, anything else I can do for you, let me know. Just reach out.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you a copy when it's done. Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Once again, we'd like to thank Lorenzo Trujillo for being on the podcast and for telling us so much about his experience and career with the trumpet. If you are ever in the DC area, be sure to check him out with the Army Band, as well as any salsa bands in the area. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Modern Trumpeter.